Hey, welcome everyone. Those of you that don't know me, which I hope you all do, my name is Chris Dragon. Today we're joined by let me let her finish. Before she gets upset and interrupted.
Prompt to record your name. If you would like to withdraw your question, press star, then the number 2. I would now like to turn the call over to Mr. Chris Dragon. Sir,
Once again, my name. Hey, so we're joined by several individuals here today. We've got about an hour, but we also want to allow some time for Q&A. And so if you have questions, when we open it up, please feel free to ask those. Those on the phone line, we're going to be doing Q&A as well. We'll hold that till the end, so feel free to chime in. With that, the format is going to be, Peter's going to give us a general update as to where we are overall as school, introduce Doug Kubach, who will be the CEO of the newly being formed assessment and instruction business, and then Emily Swinson, who is the EVP in charge of the instructional resources business that will now move over to Doug at the first of the year. So that's kind of the format of what we'll do. We'll try to answer as many of these questions as we can when we end up. And with that, I'll turn it over to Peter.
Thank you, Chris. Can you guys hear me in the back? Can they hear me elsewhere? All right, that's working well. So, a couple things. Actually, this is a pretty packed room. Those of you in the very back, hi. You know, if you'd gotten here earlier, you can sit up front, but I understand this was the last row to get filled, even though some things never change. It's obvious from the people who are here that none of you won the lottery. Arizona had a winner, right? So you were in. The other disappointing, so I was disappointed because on the plane out, I did buy tickets. You know, even I bought tickets, and it's like, what would I do if I won? And the very first thing I was going to do if I won was not fly Southwest again. So I'm flying Southwest back tonight, just like I thought I would be, unfortunately. The other, so I'm a little disappointed this morning. The other thing I'm kind of disappointed about, if anybody saw the news this morning, I think it's your channel ABC. They named the best and worst cities for good-looking people. You guys saw that? You saw that. Miami, San Diego, best-looking people in the country. Worst-looking people were Baltimore, where I am. Really? We have, you know, Homicide, and we've got the Wire, and now we have the worst-looking people. So I'm a little depressed this morning, and I'm sorry about that. So with that, we're going to just spend probably 10 or 15 minutes catching up on what's going on year to date. Then we'll kind of introduce the new organization. And Doug, he already went through that. So we talk about where we are year to date. We're kind of, this was through October. November is just coming in. Unfortunately, November's not looking that strong. Well, let me quickly kind of run through these things. So remember the 4 metrics that we look at as a company, for the most part: revenue, operating income, actual cash, because cash is what ultimately drives the company, and working capital, which is a ratio of how much money does it take to continue to operate the business. So those are the 4 metrics we have to have across the company. Our core business, which is basically the instructional resources group going forward outside of a part of PDL, is having a really good year. A lot of good adoptions, great market share, and so looks like we're going to deliver on revenue, and looks like we'll deliver on operating income. So that's a really positive thing. We'll talk more about that in a second. PDL, which a lot of people in the room are PDL, but not everybody. A tough year, a lot of difficulties with budgets, a lot of difficulties with people who said they would buy things and then kind of scaled back during the year. We're not going to make our revenue number. We have 1 month left. It's the second highest month, Chris. So we really are counting on a strong finish for PDL. So if there are any salespeople on the phone, please get off the phone, go out and talk to customers. You can catch up on this. That's why we're webcasting it. You can look at it tonight. But we really need help there. When we don't make our revenue number, we don't make our profit number usually. And as a business, and this is true of almost all businesses, if we come in at sort of 95% of our revenue number, so just off 5%, we'll come in at less than half of our profit number. That's how much the last dollar of revenue really means. You have such high fixed costs in business that you have to make that last dollar. So kind of a tough road to hoe there. School Achievement Services, that's our professional development, our school improvement business, kind of hitting the same thing. They're not going to make their revenue number, not going to make their profit number. Connections Education, that's our virtual schooling business. First year they've been with us, we kind of knew where they were going to end up when they started the year, and they're on track for their revenue and their profit number. So the total of overperformance, underperformance, underperformance, overperformance we're really close to making our revenue number for the total school. Might be a little bit more off now based on November, but we were trending at 99.5%, which would be just almost right there. Being that close, and we've done a really good job on controlling expenses. Everybody has, so thanks to all of you for that. Whether it's been plant expenses or travel expenses or flying Southwest, sitting in middle seat, we've done a good job on that. I think we still have a good shot at hitting our profit number. It's going to be a little bit tighter here based on November. If we do hit it, we'll hit our cash and our working capital number. So all in all, in a year where, let's see, HMH, one of our competitors, had to recapitalize, and basically they had to wipe out all their debt and turn all their debt into equity because they couldn't make their interest payments. McGraw-Hill, as you probably heard, was just sold to a private equity group called Apollo. We're the only company out there that's actually strong. So even if we don't make our total budget numbers, we're very profitable as a global company. We're fortunate that we have a lot of divisions that operate both in higher ed and K-12 globally, and things like Penguin and Financial Times, that mean we can weather the storm a heck of a lot better than anybody else can. We've demonstrated that. So one of the other areas we've talked about a lot over the past year has been how do our customers feel about us? And this is called the Net Promoter Score. The Net Promoter Score, quite simply, is would you recommend us to a friend? And you take the people who love you, so there's a scale of 1 to 10. If you love me, you're giving me a 9 or a 10. If you hate me, you're giving me a 1 through a 3. If you think I'm good but not great, you're kind of in the middle range. And so the way you get your Net Promoter Score is your 9s and 10s minus your 1s, 2s, and 3s, essentially. And in the middle is irrelevant. So you want to get a Net Promoter Score of 70. 70 is companies like Apple, companies that are revered for basically taking care of their customers. We're at 36, so we're not really where we want to be. Now, the 36 is just that most people like us. And you look at all of the research and we look at all the reports people send back into us when they provide comments, they like us. They just don't love us. There's always something that keeps them from loving us, whether it's a program doesn't work, I can't get into it, I need to get my access code, I called the rep, they didn't call back right away, I was supposed to get an order for books and only 5 out of 6 came. It's always some little thing. Totally fixable. So we can get this Net Promoter Score from 36 up to 70% by just being a little bit better at everything we do. It's not like we have to radically change the company to do so. But for 2013, one of our goals is to really improve that Net Promoter Score. And we'll continue to measure that. How are we doing compared to the competition? So if you look at this, on the right-hand side, and this is the core business, so it's not everything we do, but it's reported by the AAP, which is the American Association of Publishers, the entire industry this year is down 20% in aggregate, excluding Pearson. Pearson is down 12%. So you can see that we are dramatically better, like a third better than the industry in terms of how we're doing. The scary thing is the core business is declining. People are spending less money on the core business versus what they used to spend. And that's why we at Pearson have had a strategy to move from print to digital to services over time. It's simply because this trend has been known. We've been watching that trend for the past 4 years. We've talked about it, and we're beating the pack. So, we've been foresighted in the way we deal with that, but it is a continuing trend. And we've done it in part because we've done a lot of things really well. This is just recently came out, I think, about 2 weeks ago. The Tech and Learning magazine company gives out awards for excellence. For the 3rd year in a row, Pearson was #1. More recognition for more rewards for great products than any other company out there, including things like the iBooks, which were done right here in Chandler, in a number of those books. Olay, which was done here, I don't know where Mark is, but that team here did a lot of that. And then our Connections Education business, which has something called Teachlets, also got awards this year. So I think we got 9 awards in total, so just recognition from other people that what we're doing is really better than the competition. One of the things that I've been very interested in is how do we move to digital, and will digital have an impact on student achievement? So Digits is one of the programs that's been out for a couple of years now. We finally started to get some research back in. And one of the things as a company we're going to continue to do is to measure the efficacy of our programs. That's this whole efficacy framework model some of you might have read about. You'll hear more about it. We hired Sir Michael Barber to run this worldwide. We really want to improve our efficacy. So what I like about this thing is not so much that students got good results, because we kind of expect that. And not so much that students were more engaged, because that's really the whole idea behind going to digital. But down here at the bottom, which in the back you probably can't read, Teachers reported saving between 169 minutes and 300 minutes a week in terms of the administrative time. Now, if you think about the one thing we know, we just did the study, everybody saw the learning curve study, got a copy of that from NEO a couple days ago from John Fallon. In that study, if you read through it or if you get a chance to read through it, the number one differentiating factor between the countries that performed well on the PISA test and the countries that didn't was teacher quality. So if I can provide every teacher with 3 to 4 hours a week more to spend in front of students versus grading papers, what would that do to their effectiveness? It would be hugely impactful. It's kind of the equivalent to adding probably 25% more teachers for no more money. So this is the kind of thing that got me really excited about what we can do with technology, and it's the goal of our programs going forward. Another great program, again, leveraging technology, both to improve student engagement as well as get kids excited. I love this quote in here. This kid hasn't done a thing all year long, and today I had to take the iPad away from him because it was into his book and wouldn't log off. And this is where I live. Now, you know, you're a teacher. How many teachers would love to have their students say, I just want to do a little bit more work? You know, that's the kind of thing every teacher would love to have. And that's the kind of programs we're creating. So very excited about those new programs. As a company, we're moving more and more towards systems of instruction. So the systems of instruction marry the formative assessments with the summative assessments, with the instruction, with the professional development. And the English language learning system is one of the first programs we have that marries all that together. And the goal is, as we go forward, that all of our programs are some form of solution like that. Right here, and I think this number at the bottom is probably wrong, right, Chris? That we're going to do better than that.
Up.
So one of the great successes we had this year was Puerto Rico with Waterford, and I think it's maybe over $10 million now that we've got. But a fantastic result. Pardon me?
10.5.
$10.5 million. So that's why I said 9 plus and counting, because I knew we'd continue to increase that number. But a great success here in PDL, and probably one of the largest sales we've had in recent years. School Achievement Services, the professional development business, one of the things that they have as their form of customer satisfaction are do people ask them to come back next year? Do they renew their contracts? And they really focused on that this year and went from 55% to over 80% in terms of renewals. I know that's really important for our NovaNet programs as well as our Success Maker programs here, and I think we're trying to get to that 80% mark. They didn't make their goal on professional development, even though they had 75% more days than the prior year. So we had a really high goal. We have really high expectations that everybody will use professional development when they buy one of our programs. So we've got to continue to drive up our professional development as a way to improve our efficacy. Connections Education was part of a group that we had a tech summit where all across the world we had our technology leaders come in, and we had those technology leaders had the opportunity to create a little program kind of on their own time, and they were judged by the top technology people in the country, including Genevieve Shore, I should say in the world. And they came in third place with a program that was called the Virtual School Anti-Cheating and Student ID System. And I think it's really important that we make sure students don't cheat. Since this has come out, if anybody's read the paper, we should have had one for teachers. Because as you guys probably saw in Georgia, we had teachers cheating. So we're going to have to try to see if this will work for teachers as well. But a great highlight for them. And then across our businesses, our operations, we had a $16 million order for Chicago that required a huge effort on a lot of people's parts to get textbooks from all different kinds of vendors into the hands of the schools in an absurdly small amount of time. And they did a wonderful job of making sure that happened. Some of you here are involved in our conversion from Flash to HTML5. So again, we've introduced new tools. That's an ongoing process. I think next year you'll see a dramatic increase in how we manage our school workflow across all of our programs. But it's starting to pick up steam there. In our marketing area, K-12 playbook. Does anybody not know what the playbook is? Just raise your hand if you don't know what playbook is. Anyone? Just there's doors over here too. Everyone knows? Okay, good. Playbook, everybody should be going to Playbook to find out about our programs, especially our salespeople. We also launched a consumer business. We've got great opportunities to take our programs to the consumer. We hadn't done much with it. In 2011, we did about $3 million. 2012, we doubled that to $6 million. I don't know if Steve Gross is in the room, but he claims $10 million. I'm thinking $12 million next year. You want to keep on that doubling theme. That's progressive. Good work there. And then finally, one of the things that I'm kind of proud of is not that we had Hurricane Sandy, but Pearson School people jumped up immediately and said, how can we help? We had both employees that had devastation. People kind of lost their homes, lost their cars, lost their possessions. And then outside of our own community, schools. We had lots of schools that were shut down. I was talking to New Jersey, and they had 1,300 schools that were out of commission for a week. You think about that as a student, 1,300 schools are down for a week. They're losing a lot of learning. So we put together a relief fund. Hopefully you guys all got an email about this a while back. You have the opportunity to participate in that. I hope some of you did, but I really appreciate that it was the people in Pearson School who thought that it was really important for us to do that right away. So we have a lot to be thankful for this year, a lot to be proud of. It's been overall a very good year for everybody. I'm very pleased to be able to turn over the company to Doug Kubak here in a few minutes in very good shape. Got a lot of great folks in the PDL group as well as the school groups that are represented here that will, I think, enjoy working with Doug. And I've worked with him now for the past 4 years as a peer and find him to be tall as well as very bright and a very good guy to work with and very straightforward. I think you'll find his style to be very, very good. So, you know, some of you have asked, and I've talked about this at 2 town halls, sort of why are we going down this road in the first place? And there are 2 trends happening in education right now that we've seen, foreseen, and strategically planned for. One is the implementation of the Common Core. When you think about the Common Core requires us to embed formative assessment all the way through our instruction. And we have not been as good at that as we really need to be. So by integrating our assessment units in with our instructional resources units, we know that we can bring those 2 much more closely together. The second big trend is the leverage of digital. Everywhere I go, people are talking about how do I use technology in the classroom? How do I move to a one-to-one learning environment? The group here in Chandler has probably been at the forefront of our capabilities and our competencies in moving to a digital environment, both from how do we create these things to how do we implement them. And so bringing that into the core is critical. And you know, I said when I first came here, kind of 4.5 years ago, when I first saw Success Maker, I said to people, this is what instruction will be like in the future. And in order for us to make instruction like that in the future, in order to leverage technology so that we get those kinds of digits type results, you got to be part of one group. We have to have for our customers a single articulation of how Pearson can help them more than any other group. And for a period of time, we needed to build up our capabilities, build up our competencies, demonstrate that we could deliver against that, and then we need to bring those groups together so that everybody benefits from it. And that's really this next phase, is making sure that everybody benefits from the competencies we have here, both around digital delivery and around our move to services. As a company, some of you probably got to hear John Fallon speak. He spoke in Boston. It's up on Neo, so if you haven't gone there, take a look at it. But he talks about us moving to services and to technology worldwide. And the only way we can get to that point is to think globally about how we're going to leverage these practices everywhere. And this is kind of the first phase of being able to do that. Having one instructional resources group tied to our assessment group, being able to provide digital delivery. Then we have another group that is really focused on direct delivery, making sure that we can ourselves run schools. And so the GradPoint NovaNet product and our Connections Academy business all become kind of one group called Connections Education, allowing us to provide virtual instruction from basically courseware all the way through running for states, their own virtual schools, and then running our own schools on top of that, whether it's virtual or whether they're site-based schools like Nexus, and then taking that model and delivering it worldwide. So when you think about those themes, the changes that we're making now kind of are because we're headed in that direction. And Pearson has had the foresight, I think, to think through how we get to that place ahead of the curve. We don't want to be like McGraw-Hill or Houghton Mifflin, who kind of, you know, were in dire straits economically. We want to be ahead of that pack. And so we've been making these changes kind of ahead of where we think the market is. And you guys have been an important part of that. I do want to thank you all for like the past 4 years helping us achieve our goals and creating some incredibly good products. You've beat the market so far this year, I think, compared to competition. Haven't quite made our goals, but the market has done a lot worse, frankly, than PDL has. And so you have a lot to be proud of. The products we put out have been great. I'm very proud of the Zeos product, very proud of the GradPoint product, Success Maker moving to the cloud, all things that we've done here that you got a really good team here. You should be very thankful for what you got. I'm going to turn over to Doug in just a second. I will, I promise. One last thing I just want to talk about is the Esprit De Corps. And I talked about this a little bit at our our last meeting. But there's a concern that, when you kind of split up the group a bit, you lose some of that Esprit De Corps. And we were talking about this earlier with Greg. And when I thought about all the innovative products that have been developed across the school business in general, whether they were part of the school group or part of PDL, a lot of them came out of Chandler. So really, the Chandler innovative spirit has permeated school already. And I don't expect that to go away. So whether it's all part of one instructional resources group, or whether it's part of even the Connections Education group, I think what you've got here remains special. The last thing is, somebody in the town hall said, are you going to close Chandler? Look around the room here. This is the core of where we're headed in digital and services. This is the last place we'll close. We should close my office before we close anything like Chandler. This is where the future is. So you guys should be very proud to be part of the future of where Pearson is going.